Leah, Patricia, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I find it so inspiring that the work that both of you are doing is really ensuring that marginalized communities are written back into the narratives or pulled out from the soil, Leah, that you just mentioned, and brought back into these stories. So Patricia, I'd love to start by asking you, what is one thing about the impact of your work that surprised you or could surprise us here today?
I guess the capacity of humans to expand and learn in extreme circumstances. You know, our team, yes, we had an organization that was doing education and had a lot of kids, but when we had the opportunity to bring the vegetables, they learn it. And there's this massive distribution. And then the medicine. And then I think that's what's the resiliency of the team and people in extreme circumstances. That is the thing that has surprised me the most.
Wow. And Leah, I'd love to ask you, oftentimes in this work, and I'm sure in your work in particular, there are people trying to come to support the work that you're doing, but oftentimes the actions that they take do the opposite and aren't actually effective. Can you give us an example of maybe a time where that's happened to you, and what can we do to ensure that when we're providing support to people, especially in the realms of the work that you're doing, it's actually impactful?
I would say wealth redistribution is incredibly important, and I often say if you were to give out 10 $50,000 grants to grassroots environmental justice organizations, you would see more change than giving $1 million to one of the big green, most funded environmental organizations, because more positively, a lot of people of color, they have the solutions, they just need the amplification and support and resources to scale their nature-based solutions and things like that. So I would say one thing that doesn't work is assuming that people don't know what they need in their own communities. But they know if there's a weird smell when they drive over the highway and there's, a landfill or something like that. They know if their water is a little funky or discolored and that something's wrong. So it's really important to validate people's experiences and their knowledge of their own communities and be there as an ally to really amplify and support what they're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Leah, I'd love to ask you the same first question I asked Patricia. What is something that you've noticed about the impact of the work that you're doing that might surprise us here in the room today?
I'm really excited. I'm a curriculum person. All of my family, they're educators, and we're seeing rapid changes in environmental storytelling and curriculums to this day. And a lot of educators are also using social media, which I never thought possible. But I kind of ramble about all of this on social media, and I have a lot of friends that do the same. And there are a lot of teachers that are really trying to connect with their students and utilize social media and other things because their curriculums might not be updated yet to make sure that environmental history is as diverse as possible. But the students are saying, I saw this on TikTok, I saw this on Instagram, I'm learning about it at home, and I want to learn about it in the classroom. So that was really shocking to me that Gen Z is really leading the way and taking their education into their own hands. There's also some concerns there because Gen Zers go to TikTok before they go to Google. Yes. So we need to make sure there's some sort of academic integrity in those spaces as well.
Absolutely. And both of you work in spaces that I think can very quickly become divisive or polarized. So Patricia, how have you been able to overcome this, and any words of wisdom for us here today who want to repave that road, but the space gets so heated before we can even start the repaving?
That's a wonderful question because, in the United States, we're dealing with it as we speak. We work in a country where there is so much political division, and it becomes a challenge when you're trying to do good. I have found through experience that the only way that we can really create a difference is for us, regardless of what our political individual beliefs might be, is to not be political when we do the work. And everyone needs the help. So we don't judge what party you belong to when you need the food or need the medicine. And we have seen that as a result of this, it's like a bubble of change and positive change that is spreading throughout the country, and that allows us to do the work. And I think it can create that ripple effect that I mentioned before.
Absolutely. And I think, Leah, for our generation, we, for the most part, all agree that we need to take action on the climate crisis, but I'm sure you still find yourself in spaces where there is a lot of division. How do you overcome this in the work you do? I
try to take a really intersectional approach to climate action because health justice is also climate justice. So even when we're talking about housing reform or racial justice, all of these things connect back to environmentalism in some way. So I really try to meet people where they're at. I also speak at churches sometimes, which is really fun. Dolly Parton has this quote where she says, if you care about God, you should care about the planet because it's one of God's creations. So I don't care what gets you to protecting the environment. Everybody has something, whether they just like to spend time outside, whether it's faith-based, whether they're a climate activist. But I think really understanding that not everyone is going to be a climate activist, and that's okay, but that all roads lead back to the environment, and just being compassionate to find people and meet them where they're at. Thank you both for identifying the common thread in all of this, which is that we need to meet people where they are and listen to the needs of the communities that we're impacting. So Patricia, Leah, thank you so much for sharing your stories and for being here today.
Thank you.